Let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at a story that honestly feels like it was written for Hollywood. We're talking about how a constantly smiling Brazilian genius managed to resurrect a footballing giant from its absolute darkest era. Yup, Ronaldinho and FC Barcelona. You look at Barca's modern success today, and it's kind of wild to imagine the utter state the club was in before he showed up. To really grasp what he pulled off, you have to understand that this club didn't just need a few new players or a tactical tweak. They were in desperate need of a total cultural reset. Just listen to how Lionel Messi himself frames this era. He flat out said that Ronaldinho was responsible for the change in Barca, pointing out that it was a genuinely bad time until his arrival changed everything. Now, coming from arguably the greatest player to ever touch a football, that isn't just a nice compliment, right? It's a historical testament. Messi is basically acknowledging that before the golden era he eventually led, there was this profoundly dark period. And the undisputed catalyst that dragged the club out of that darkness? Ronaldinho. So, that begs the ultimate question for us today. How exactly does one single player save a dying giant? It's a fascinating paradox. How does a guy who is famous for his love of the nightlife, the partying, and that infectious, carefree smile manage to literally save an institution like Barcelona from the abyss? Because usually, right, we associate these massive club-saving turnarounds with strict authoritarian managers or complete tactical overhauls. But here, the savior was an entertainer who just played with pure, unadulterated joy. But to appreciate how radical this was, we really need to look at just how bad things were. Let me tell you, things were incredibly grim. Back in the year 2000, the club suffered the ultimate betrayal. Their superstar winger, Luis Figo, shockingly bolted for their eternal rivals, Real Madrid. And man, that single move just ripped the soul right out of the club. What followed was brutal. 4 miserable, completely trophyless seasons. By the 2002-2003 season, they hit absolute rock bottom. I mean, they finished in unfathomable 6th place in the Liga. At one point, they were sitting just 3 points above the relegation zone. It was a full-blown crisis. And watching them on the pitch? Brutal. The club was in total freefall. We're talking humiliating early Copa del Rey exits to third-tier teams. Teams like Figueres and Novelda. Just imagine the mighty Barcelona getting knocked out by 4th division squads. The fans responded in really the only way they could. They just stayed home. The massive Camp Nou was often left half empty, just drowning in this collective sense of despair. The magic was gone. Fans were furious, the boardroom was in absolute chaos, and honestly, the club was practically broke. 30 million euros. That is the massive gamble the newly elected club president, Joan Laporta, took in the summer of 2003. Now, he had actually promised to sign a massive star, either David Beckham or Thierry Henry, but he missed out on both of them, so he pivots. He puts 30 million euros on the table to outbid Manchester United for a 23-year-old Brazilian playing for Paris Saint-Germain, Ronaldinho. At the time, short. He'd shown flashes of absolute brilliance, right? He won a World Cup with Brazil in 2002. But his club form had actually slipped a bit, and he had a pretty rocky relationship with his manager in Paris over his, let's say, holiday habits. So this was a massive, high-pressure roll of the dice for Barca. But, wow, the magic started instantly, and in the most bizarre and spectacular circumstances you could imagine. Kickoff was at 5 minutes past midnight on September 3rd, 2003. A 1:30 a.m. home debut against Sevilla because of an international break scheduling conflict. So Ronaldinho receives the ball deep in his own house. He turns and he just goes. Effortlessly dribbles past 2 Sevilla players, gets to the 30-yard line, and unleashes this thunderous strike. It hammers off the underside of the crossbar and right into the back of the net. The stadium absolutely erupted. It was like this sudden jolt of electricity that the club hadn't felt in years. And the cultural shift? It was immediate. The club went straight from that pre-2003 era of half-empty stadiums, trophy droughts, and absolute despair, right into a new reality of a consistently sold-out Camp Nou. Fans literally started buying tickets just to see what Ronaldinho was going to do next. I mean, yes, he brought a winning mentality for sure, but more importantly, he brought pure joy. He was this luxury player that somehow became the fundamental building block of a winning team. It just proved that sometimes the absolute best psychological antidote for a depressed culture is sheer, undeniable entertainment. The legendary Barcelona captain Carles Puyol captured this shift perfectly. He said, "He's given Barcelona our spirit back. He has made us smile again." think about how profound that is, coming from a guy like Puyol, this tough, no-nonsense, gritty defender. Ronaldinho wasn't just bringing world-class talent and goals. He was acting as a defibrillator for a broken institution. He brought back a massive measure of self-esteem to a club that had literally forgotten how to hold its head high. So how exactly did he do it? Well, by conquering Europe with a magical arsenal of moves that literally no one else could even attempt. First, you had that gravity-defying stationary strike against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in the Champions League. He just pauses, feints, and toe pokes it past Petr Cech from outside the box with zero backlift. Insane. Then there was that breathtaking performance against Real Madrid. He scored 2 incredible solo goals and actually earned a standing ovation from the bitter rivals at the Bernabeu, a feat only Maradona had pulled off before him. And of course, that signature 180-degree chest control and spinning bicycle kick against Villarreal. Fans were waving white handkerchiefs in pure awe. He just made the impossible look entirely effortless. But look, let's be very clear about this. He didn't just entertain. He delivered absolute, undeniable results. First step, he returned the club to the top of La Liga, grabbing consecutive league titles. Step 2, his individual brilliance gets recognized globally when he wins the Ballon d'Or as the undisputed best player in the world in 2005. And then, step 3, the ultimate culmination, breaking a massive 14-year Champions League drought by taking down Arsenal in the 2006 final in Paris. He took a team that was flirting with relegation a few years prior and turned them into the undisputed kings of Europe. Yet, even with all the trophies and the shiny individual awards, his ultimate legacy might actually be a single pass he made in May 2005. They're playing against Albacete, and Ronaldinho serves up this perfectly executed, almost knowing, scooped assist right over the defense. And on the receiving end, a long-haired teenager named Lionel Messi, who lobs it into the net for his very first senior goal for Barcelona. What happens next is just iconic. Ronaldinho celebrates with this pure, unselfish joy, giving the young Messi a piggyback ride right in front of a roaring Camp Nou. His humility in passing the torch to this next generation was just absolute. During his Ballon d'Or acceptance speech, he famously and so gracefully deflected the spotlight. He said, "This award says I'm the best player in the world, but I'm not even the best player at Barcelona. Someday I will explain that I was at the birth of one of the footballing greats, Leo Messi." Think about that. He's the reigning king of the footballing world, yet he is willingly championing a teenager. He fostered this environment where players like Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi could just develop without huge egos or jealousy getting in the way. So this leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to wrap up this explainer. Did Ronaldinho merely win trophies, or did his infectious joy fundamentally rewrite the DNA of modern football's greatest dynasty? The history and the facts definitely point to the latter. He didn't just play beautiful football. He walked into a dying giant, taught an entire club how to smile and dream again, and in doing so, he paved the exact runway needed for the Messi era we all know today. Whether you're looking at a football club or any failing organization, Ronaldinho proved that sometimes the most effective way to save a broken system isn't with an iron fist, but by re-injecting it with passion, a healthy culture, and a simple, magical smile.